You walked into your room today and felt it again. That quiet wave of guilt, the clothes draped over the chair you haven't sat in for weeks. The stack of books on your nightstand, each one open to a different chapter, none of them finished. The desk covered in notebooks, receipts, half-written lists, a coffee mug you keep meaning to take to the kitchen, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a voice whispers what it always whispers. You should be more organized. You should be better than this. Because organized people have their lives together, and your room looks like your life is falling apart. But here's the thing nobody told you. What if your messy room was never the problem? What if it was a clue? Not a clue that something is wrong with you. A clue about how your mind actually works. Because the truth is, for a certain kind of person, mess is not the absence of thought. It is the overflow of it. Your room does not look like that because you do not care. It looks like that because you care about too many things at once. You are not lazy, you are loaded. And those are two very different things. Let me explain what I mean. There is a pattern that psychologists have noticed in people who score high in a personality trait called openness to experience. It is one of the big 5 personality dimensions, and people who rank high in it tend to be curious, imaginative, drawn to novelty, comfortable with ambiguity. They are the ones who start reading about black holes at midnight and end up on a Wikipedia page about medieval bread making by 2 in the morning. Their minds do not move in straight lines. They move in spirals. And their environments tend to reflect that. Not because they lack discipline, but because their attention is always being pulled toward the next interesting thing. The pile on the desk is not neglect. It is evidence of a mind that refuses to stop exploring. And this connects to something even deeper. There is a concept in cognitive psychology called latent inhibition. Most people's brains are constantly filtering out stimuli that have been previously categorized as irrelevant. You see the same tree on your street every day, and eventually your brain stops registering it. But some people have reduced latent inhibition. Their brains let more in. They notice the texture of the bark, the way the light hits a single leaf, the sound of the wind through the branches. They absorb more of the world around them, and while this makes them more creative, more perceptive, more alive to detail, it also means their external world tends to accumulate. Because when everything feels potentially meaningful, nothing gets easily discarded. That stack of magazines is not trash. Each one contains an article they circled, an image that sparked something, a thought they have not finished thinking yet. This is where it gets personal. If you are someone whose room is messy but whose mind is constantly generating ideas, you are probably engaging in what psychologists call divergent thinking. This is the kind of thinking that branches outward, that generates multiple possibilities from a single prompt, that connects dots other people do not even see. It is the opposite of convergent thinking, which narrows down to one correct answer. Divergent thinkers are the ones with 7 browser tabs open in their mind at all times. They start projects not because they cannot commit, but because each new idea feels urgent, alive, demanding attention. And so the room fills up, not with garbage, but with beginnings, unfinished paintings, half-assembled plans, notebooks with 3 pages used and then abandoned for a new one because the energy shifted and the next idea would not wait. And here is something no one talks about enough. Many of these people operate on a principle that feels almost physical, out of sight, out of mind. If they put something away in a drawer, it ceases to exist. It vanishes from their mental map, so they keep things visible. The desk is not cluttered. It is a visual filing system. Every item sitting out is a reminder, a thread connected to a thought they are not ready to let go of. They do not organize by category. They organize by cognitive proximity, by emotional relevance, by the invisible architecture of whatever they are currently working through in their heads. To an outsider, it looks like chaos. To them, it is a landscape they can read. But let us be honest with ourselves for a moment, because this is not just about validation. There is a shadow side to this, and you probably already know what it is. Sometimes that mess stops feeling like creative flow and starts feeling like weight. Sometimes you walk into your room and instead of seeing possibility, you feel paralysis. The cognitive load becomes too much. Your brain, already processing more than most, now has to navigate a physical environment that is demanding even more from it. The overstimulation creeps in, the procrastination follows, and then the shame. Not because the room is messy, but because you know you are capable of more, and the environment you have built around yourself is quietly working against you. You avoid inviting people over. You close the door when someone visits. You feel a low hum of social anxiety that you cannot quite name, but that lives in the gap between how you function and how you think you are supposed to function. This is the tension that smart, creative, deeply feeling people live inside every single day. The mess is both a reflection of their brilliance and a source of their frustration. It is the physical manifestation of a brain that prioritizes internal order over external order. Inside, there are cathedrals of ideas, intricate systems of thought, emotional depths that most people never access. Outside, there is a pile of laundry on the floor, and the world judges the outside every time. So, what do you do with this? You do not force yourself into someone else's system. You do not buy matching storage containers and label everything and pretend that makes you feel calm when really it just makes you feel like you are performing organization for an audience that is not even watching. Instead, you learn your own pattern. You notice which piles are active and which ones are just guilt. You give yourself permission to have a workspace that looks alive, that reflects the way your mind actually moves, while also being honest about when the environment is no longer serving you. You create what you might call functional chaos, a space that breathes, a space where the mess has meaning but does not have control. Because the goal was never to have a perfect room, the goal was to have a mind that feels free enough to do what it does best. And sometimes, that means the desk is covered in papers and the bed is unmade and there are 4 half-drunk glasses of water on the nightstand, and sometimes that is perfectly fine. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not failing at adulthood. You are a person whose mind moves faster than your hands can organize. And that is not a flaw. That is a feature. The only thing you owe yourself is the awareness to know when the mess is working for you and when it is working against you. Everything else is just noise. If this felt like someone was reading your diary, you are not alone. And if you want to understand more about the way your mind works, the patterns behind your habits, the psychology underneath the things you have always judged yourself for, stay here, subscribe. There is more to uncover, and you deserve to hear it.